Nano Machine by Hanjo Leolia. Chapter 480. Revise/Battle. Part 1. The head rolled on the ground with a bewildered expression on it. Along with Liam, Keanu, the captain of the Special Forces, had modified human abilities. But who would have imagined that he would die in such a vain manner? Surprised by the sudden death, the Special Forces only then realized their situation. Until they met him, they were all burning with desire, saying that they would win the battle, which is on par with the Great Gate. But the situation wasn't in their favor. Damn it! Rather, they were being hunted down. Of the Special Forces, 2 were killed, and 1 had an amputated arm, making him incapable of combat. There was no other way but to run if they valued their lives. Ugh, it's impossible for us to do anything to him. Subjugate him? Crazy! Therese groaned inwardly. Subduing the enemy was the only possible way they could have an advantage over him. But how could they subdue a monster? On the contrary, it was unknown if they could even escape from there. 2 main members of the Special Forces are gone. Maybe when all 5 Special Forces come, Suddenly, Therese managed to think of something. Dead Rose Special Forces. They weren't the only team which came here. Although they weren't together because of the arrogance and stubborn nature of Keanu, that person was also in this time. I can ask for help. It wasn't to subdue the monster. He wanted help to run away. Chun Yo-won, who had killed Keanu, glanced at the remaining 3 people who were holding on to their lives. It was simple eye contact, but the 3 felt terrified. We need to stall for time. Therese raised his hands. It meant that they were willing to surrender, and it was something everyone knew regardless of time. Chun Yo-won raised his right eyebrow as he asked, "What are you doing?" We lost. We don't want to fight anymore." At Therese's words, Tanaka, who was holding his severed arm, shouted, "Therese!" Therese's hands, which were in the air, signaled something. Tanaka and Baron, who thought that he might have a plan, went silent. Then he spoke cautiously. "I apologize. We can't do much with our current power. Any further resistance is meaningless." Chun Yo-won responded in a cold voice. "Then you shouldn't have come here in the first place." Therese responded while breaking out in a cold sweat. "Ugh, we are nothing more than mere soldiers. If an order is given from above, we need to do the task." He wasn't wrong. He wasn't here with the intention of catching him. "Do you think something like that will work?" "Tuck." With those words, Chun Yo-won took a step forward, making Therese scream. I want to make a suggestion. I don't feel like hearing it." "Wait. If you kill us here, then it will only repeat over and over again." That was when Chun Yo-won's step stopped. As he said, if the Special Forces failed, the probability of stopping Chun Yo-won was low. However, they would send in more people. "He's showing interest." Seeing Chun Yo-won stop, Therese thought that he managed to catch him. Therese quietly sent a message to Baron. "Baron, send a rescue request to the captain of the Dead Rose Special Forces, right now." "Roger." Baron, who learned the true intention behind Therese's plan, hurriedly tried to send a request. And Therese continued to say something that could appeal to Chun Yo-won. "We, who fought with you, came to realize that everything will only be for naught. So if the battle ends here, we will try to persuade the others." "Persuade?" "Right. The TP knows of your nano machine, and I will inform the headquarters that the recovery of the nano machine is impossible. If that is relayed, there will be no more additional troops." Chun Yo-won's eyes narrowed at those words. Now, the idea was tempting. He's interested. Therese, who thought his suggestion worked based on Chun Yo-won's attitude, was gleaming with joy. He thought that if this plan worked, he wouldn't just gain time but also succeed in deceiving the man. After all, there is no way two special forces can take down the monster. And after returning to headquarters, all the special forces will have to work together to develop the strategy from the videos they filmed so far. We need to go back. He didn't show it, but Therese was on the edge of breaking down. While he was doing that, Chen Youwen opened his mouth. I don't get it. What do you mean? You said that you only follow orders. How do you plan on convincing your superiors? At Chen Youwen's words, the faces of the other two members went stiff. However, maybe he expected the question, so Therese answered immediately. I will deceive them. Deceive? As long as we show the dead bodies, including the captains, we can say that it was a fierce battle and put it down in an official report. That means... Yes. I will tell them that the nano machine couldn't be retrieved because you died during the battle. As with most nano machines, perhaps it was also programmed to automatically stop working as soon as it's removed from the user's body. The headquarters will have no choice but to trust us. It was something to gain time, but it seemed like a plausible act. In fact, Therese wasn't sure if the superiors would be deceived by that or not. But of course, he wasn't planning on doing any such thing. If the Dead Rose Special Forces come, get on the time jet and escape. They should be here. These people didn't use time packs. If they were, they couldn't be bringing in such enhanced devices like drones. Time jet. It wasn't a mass-produced device like the time pack, but a large-scale spacetime transport only used by higher-level TP units. How does that sound? This is an offer that won't hurt you. We too are taking risks for our lives. Therese looked at Chen Youwen with tense eyes. The energy subsided. It's a tempting offer. That's definite. Chen Youwen expressed his affirmation of the suggestion. Yes. The faces of the remaining members, including Therese, brightened. He thought that they would lose, but they succeeded. Now, if only that time jet would appear, they could escape from here, and this horrifying nightmare would end. It was then. Slash. Roll. Roll. The sound of something slashing and something rolling on the floor. Therese turned his head when Tanaka yelled. Baron. The only thing he saw was a headless suit. Blood gushed out like a fountain from the severed neck. Push. Baron's head was rolling on the floor. With that, Therese yelled. What is this? You definitely affirmed the suggestion. When did I accept it? What? Why would I believe your words? No. Then you could have asked us for a contract document rather than an oral agreement. Are you really trying to put an end to the cycle? Chen Youwen shook his head at those words. He pointed to Baron and said, You say all of that when you were asking for reinforcements behind my back. Therese shuddered at those words. The frequency he sent the message to Baron in was a secure one that only the captain and the team knew of. But that wasn't it. Therese looked at Baron. Did you say Dead Rose Special Forces? So you weren't the only ones who came here. Damn it. Baron was right. At Chen Youwen's words, Therese cursed himself. If the enemy had a nano machine in them, then it was like speaking openly, and now that Chen Youwen knew, they were at a disadvantage. There was only one way left. We need to hold out until the time jet arrives. Therese bit his lip and shouted at Tanaka. Run outside. Who said I was letting you go? Chen Youwen tried to create an invisible sword. It was then, Therese jumped back and pressed a button on the palm of his suit. Then, quack-quack-quack-wang. The drones floating around Chen Youwen exploded. Although the control was lost, the ability to fire and self-destruct was possible. Originally, he was waiting for Captain Keanu to give the signal, but he was dead, so he used it then. Quack-quack-wang. The explosion of the drones was huge. The drones were developed for the direct bombardment of enemies in addition to firing bullets. Tier. Using the suits, Therese and Tanaka ripped the tent apart and escaped. The barracks were in flames due to the explosion. Yes. Yes. The two men who came out of the barracks cheered. Even if the opponent was a monster, the drones exploded nearby, which meant that it would be impossible for the man to use his nano suit. You disgusting bastard. If you had let yourself get fooled, you would have been able to live a little longer. Now go to hell. Therese raised his middle finger towards the barracks. He was sure that the man was dead. Ha 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 ha. It was then. Wing. In the flames which were burning the barracks, a strange phenomenon began to occur. The flames turned into a whirlwind and suddenly soared into the sky. What is this? Wing. The flames which soared up into the night sky disappeared, and a hazy image could be seen from the smoke which was left behind. Even though they didn't want their thoughts to be true, they couldn't erase the ominous feeling which was rising within them. No way. How could, in such an explosion? At that very moment, something passed through Therese's middle finger. Tap. Something happened, but then his middle finger got cut off and fell to the floor. His finger was cut off, and he wasn't okay. With heat rising to his face, Therese screamed. Ack. Fuck. My finger. Swoosh. Chun Yo-won suddenly appeared in front of him. It was shocking. Despite all the explosions which happened so close to him, there wasn't a single wound on him. What were you trying to do with those explosions? Unfortunately, he didn't know that flames didn't work on Chun Yo-won. After absorbing the flame of the Qilin, he was able to handle flames freely. The middle finger? It made me uncomfortable. Ack. Therese looked furious at Chun Yo-won's nonchalant words. What are you doing? Puck. Quack. My eyes. Chun Yo-won's two fingers dug out his eyes. This pain couldn't be compared to getting a finger cut off. Therese cupped his face. Wounded area will be healed. Cha-cha-cha. As the helmet was on, Therese's suit attempted to repair the wound. But Pachek. Suit is forcibly shut off, and the AI's static voice resounded. Chun Yo-won had cut the suit in half with the invisible sword. Shockingly, only the suit was cut and not his body. The suit he was wearing was cut off and fell like a curtain. Tatak. Chun Yo-won hit his blood points, making him immobile. TCH. Why? Why am I like this? Why isn't my body moving? Cough. Blood was coming out, so he couldn't even open his mouth. The fear was indescribable. He couldn't see, he couldn't move, and he couldn't speak. Wait a while. He could only hear. What is he up to? Therese heard the sound of something being cut. Slash. Quack. A scream, and he could tell who it was from. Tanaka? It was definitely Tanaka. It was just a scream, but Therese was convinced. Tanaka was dead. Tanakaka. The reality was that he couldn't do anything but scream internally. He was on the verge of becoming crazy. While he had killed all the others, he couldn't understand why Chun Yo-won was still keeping him alive. Soon, Chun Yo-won's voice rang through his head. You guys have measures to make your body melt when you die. Creepy. At those words, a chill ran down his spine. The TP crew were arranged to disintegrate right away when their heart stops. If that happens, everything from their ID chip disappears, making the person impossible to trace. And no way. Chun Yo-won's voice came again. If I keep you alive, the Dead Rose's special forces, who heard your request, will come to assist you, right? Right. He was being used as bait. Umumium. No. No matter how much he wailed, there was nothing he could do as the suit was removed. Huang. As he kept screaming inside, a strong wind flew through Teresa's whole body. At the same time, the mechanical sound of a heavy jet was heard. Chapter 481. Revise/Battle. Part 2. Whoa. The night sky shook as if something was moving in it. As a reflective panel was being used in the sky, the top of the mountain shone in the moonlight. It seemed like a giant eagle. But probably because of its silver color, it felt cold. Shoo. The white particles coming out of the wings decreased as its altitude lowered and a strong wind blew. Chen Yuan exclaimed. It was gigantic and couldn't be compared to the drones the Keanu Special Forces used a moment back. Are there people riding inside? The carriage of the future is a wonder to me. Besides, it could fly. If it wasn't for Nano, he might have been even more surprised. Is it floating? The purpose of this time jet seemed to be flying. And somehow, Chen Yuan wanted to subdue those in the jet and seize it. It's good that they heard. There was a man standing alone below the time jet. This person, whose blood points were hit and eyes were bleeding, was Therese, the lieutenant of the Keanu Special Forces. Chen Yuan thought as he looked at the man. Anyway, I'll have to kill them before they call for more troops in the future. If he didn't, it would turn into a vicious cycle. If he noticed them and dealt with them, it would give him some time, but the future science and technology were limitless. It was unknown who all would come for him. So, Chen Yuan decided to adopt the method Therese had suggested, lying. Only one person is needed. Chen Yuan decided to extract information from the enemies. However, he realized that his proposal will be based on the other person's behavior. The more complex the idea, the more difficult it was for the other person to accept. The simpler it was, the easier it would be accepted. Information that I died during the battle. All he had to do was say that he was the only survivor. Therese said that the nano machines disappear when the users die. Then, if a survivor reported that to the future, there's a high probability that the superiors of the TP would believe it. If this fails, I can do something else. There was nothing wrong with trying. Chen Yuan looked at the time jet. Wing. At that time, a round beam came down in a straight line from the lower part of the jet, which was still in the air, and fell on Therese, who was on the ground. And Therese's body floated up. This. Chen Yuan frowned. He thought they would come down and take the person themselves, but he didn't expect it. He didn't know what kind of trick it was, but it looked like the man's body was being taken into the time jet, and they were trying to leave. They can't leave like that. Chen Yuan extended his hand towards Therese. Therese's body, which was floating up, suddenly moved down and stuck to the ground. Whoa! The light kept trying to pull him up, but he wouldn't budge. After several attempts, the light disappeared. How will this turn out? How will it play out? Their colleague is alive. Chen Yuan thought they had come to rescue him. If they planned on abandoning him, they would have never come there after hearing the request. Chen Yuan's guess was correct. Wing. The time jet lowered its altitude and descended a little more. It seemed like the jet was trying to keep a safe distance between itself and the ground so they could escape whenever the rescue was done. They came down 70 feet. Pop-a-pack. As they got closer to the ground, the wind became strong, and the sand began to blow out. Clang. Wing. What seemed like an entrance to the side opened up on the time jet. At the square entrance stood 3 people. Looking at the curves of their suits, it looked like it was 2 men and 1 woman. Behind them, a woman with a voluptuous body and breasts, which didn't go well with the suit, stood and instructed them something. Because it could be dangerous. As soon as the survivors are tied to the wires, you 3 will climb straight in. We will be leaving right away. Until then, check the borders and be thorough. Roger. As the entrance opened, the wind was too strong, so they had to talk in their standard frequency. Upon receiving the order, they jumped down from the time jet. Rumble. Shoo. The woman wrapped a wire around her arm and jumped off, while the other two men slowly landed on the ground with particles scattering from their suits. The woman of the Dead Rose Special Forces checked the condition of the survivor, Therese, lying on the floor. This. What is it? Anna. Both the eyes, yuck. The member called Anna was terrified as she saw Therese without eyes. The two men too frowned at the sight of the brutality. It was natural that they felt repulsed looking at Therese. How the hell could that monster martial artist completely annihilate everyone and make the lone survivor look like this? They judged that the man in the video was skilled. A monster who could block bullets. I heard that Keanu is a veteran who fought in many battles, but for us to not find his body. Huh. Anna, who barely managed to calm herself, tried to wrap a wire around Therese's body. However, the man who was supposed to be unconscious was groaning something. Yoop. Yoop yoop peep. He was shivering and moving. Something seemed strange. One of the men reached out to Therese's body. A red light flowed from his suit's palm and scanned the body. The flow of blood has been blocked with energy. Wait. I heard about this. A technique that martial artists use to block the blood with energy. She pulled out something like a syringe from a box that was marked with a red cross on her waist. She opened it and then put it in Therese's neck. Puck. The blue drug in the syringe entered his bloodstream. Once the regenerative nano machine is injected, the blood flow will return to normal. I'll tie him to the wire. I'll provide cover. The two men covered while the one called Anna was trying to tie the wire on Therese's body. Swoosh. 30 small drones came from the suit of one operator, all aiming for their surroundings. The other man looked around, holding a gun in one hand and the other palm stretched out. Clip. Thanks to that, the wire was tied around Therese's body. Tack. Tack. Anna pulled the wire to check it and then sent a message to the time jet. Time jet. The survivor has been immobilized on the wire. Now PU, pack. Just then, someone grabbed her wrist. Quack. For a moment, she screamed, startled, but it was just Therese who grabbed her wrist. He was unable to move until a second back, because his blood flow had been suppressed, but now he grabbed onto her despite his trembling hand. TH, way. They couldn't hear well because of the wind. So Anna gave the order to her AI suit to raise Therese's voice. And this is a trap. Run away quickly. Trap? Anna, what is he? It was the moment the male member, who was on alert, turned and asked. The drones that were surrounding the boundary with the panel system started firing bullets in a certain direction at once. Bang! 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 Ah! From their suits, they could see a person running with great speed. And shockingly, the person didn't seem to be even a little fazed by the bullets. Cha-cha-chang. Every bullet seemed to be cut down with a sword. No, that's ridiculous. All three of them were shocked. It was Chen Yuan who was moving, with his long black hair fluttering. It was the face they saw in the video. He's the one. Panel. Intercept. Swoosh. When the man controlling the drones came forward and gave orders, the drones that were shooting in one direction spread out and shot at Chen Yuan. But this is what it looks like. Chen Yuan reached out to the drones, which were about to spread out. Then, as if the drones' movement was restricted, they all stopped mid-air. What? The drones stopped? What went wrong? I don't know. The panel isn't, why is this happening? It was then, Chen Yuan pushed his hand forward. The drones, which had stopped, soon flew towards the man who was operating them. What? Panicked, the man stretched out his hand. Su. Something like energy fired from the palm in a straight beam, which shot down the drone. But the other drones were moving too fast. He could only shoot down 6 drones. Papa Pack. Ack. Stop. Get off. As the drones were getting close, some of them stuck to the man's body. He panicked as he tried to remove them and run. He released a charge from his suit, but to no avail. Chen Yuan clasped his palms. It was then, quack quack wang. Coo. The drones moved, and the attached ones exploded. With a brief scream, the man's body was engulfed in the explosion. This. Tack. At that moment, the other man who was close by put his hand on the ground. And rumble. Stones began to rise, creating a barrier that absorbed the aftermath of the explosion. Huh? Chen Yuan's eyes lit up. Because of some energy from the man's hand, stones rose. It's different from internal energy. It was a different kind of energy from internal energy, or qi. Contrary to his reaction, the other two were confused. Anna hurriedly sent them a message. Time jet. Now. The enemy has appeared. Hurry up and pull the wire. What? Shit. I get it. Wing. Immediately, the wire was pulled. Teresa's body was about to float up. The voice of the Dead Rose Special Forces Captain, Luis, spoke. You guys should come up. We will raise the altitude. Roger. Swoosh. As the captain said, the time jet slowly increased its altitude. They also tried to escape by switching their suits to flight mode. Anna. I will cover you, so you fly first. The man turned and then raised his hands. Dozens of stones from the floor rose and covered them. If it's Martin's superpower, he'll be able to defend himself. Along with Luis, Martin held superpowers which specialized in defense. His limit wasn't known, but Anna thought that he could hold his ground. Understood. Anna nodded and tried to soar into the sky. It was then. Puck. Quack. Swoosh. Thud. Martin, who was slowly following her, suddenly screamed, making her look down. Martin. Shocked, she looked at the fallen body of Martin, who was attacked. Chen Yuan held out his arms as if he was aiming at the two people who were moving. In the air between them, something like an opaque sword was floating. Creep. That is. It was the man's unknown power they saw in the video. I need to run. Frightened by the fact that she could die along with the survivor, Anna tried to get on the time jet right away by increasing the output of the flight mode. That was when something caught her eyes. Kekakai. The time jet, which was trying to increase its altitude with the help of its thrusters, was unable to go up. Instead, it was coming down, little by little. What? Why is it dropping? I don't know. It seems like something strong is pulling the aircraft down. Anna could hear the conversation from inside the time jet. No way. Confused, she turned her head and looked down again. Chen Yuan's hands seemed like they were pulling something down. Anna was startled by the unbelievable power this man had. Chapter 482. Revise/Battle. Part 3. If other martial artists had seen it, they would be astonished. Chen Yuan, who held out one hand and pulled the time jet with unimaginable power, was like a demon god. As he absorbed all 5 spirit beast cores, Chen Yuan's internal energy was exploding, and he, who reached the heavenly master level, turned into a being who surpassed the spirit beasts. Of course, even if it wasn't a martial artist, they would be shocked. Is he actually pulling down the time jet? I was definitely told that he practiced martial arts, but this is something which can only be done after reaching the highest level of telekinesis. It was completely different from the martial arts they knew. It was so close to telekinesis. Anna's face, which was covered with the suit's helmet, had turned white and tense. Kirrrrk. The altitude of the time jet, which was trying to move up, kept lowering. No one knew what was even happening. Anna pulled out her M320 gun, which was on her back, and fired ultra-vibrating bullets at Chen Yuan. She had to stop him at all costs. Bang! 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 Chen Yuan gently moved his left hand as if he was holding a sword. Then an invisible sword floating in the air suddenly generated and cut down the incoming bullets. Cha-cha-chang! No, this can't be. The bullets they were using had brought victory to them during the Great Gate. And they didn't work on this man. That was when Anna heard what was happening inside the time jet. Damn it! Raise the output to level 7. Sorry? Unless we reach the final level of. Are we in a position to follow the rules? Hurry! Understood. As soon the orders fell, the light particles, which were being pushed out from the time jet's thrusters, grew stronger. Swoosh! As the particles grew stronger, the pressure it gave off increased. Anna, who hadn't yet boarded the jet, was unable to maintain her balance. Ah! See it, Captain. Anna. Be patient. We will just shake off the power that's holding us down. The output of the jet became stronger, and its altitude, which was descending, began to rise. This. Chen Yuan looked annoyed. As the force grew, the time jet pulled up stronger, and it was becoming difficult to pull it down. It was natural. Since the power that was only supposed to be used at high altitudes was being used near the ground, I was really trying not to damage it. Chen Yuan carefully handled his energy for the purpose of stealing the time jet. But he couldn't let it escape. Chen Yuan released the hand which was controlling the sword and reached out to the jet. Meanwhile, swoosh. Captain. We are good. The time jet is going up. Anna cheered as the time jet kept rising, despite the unbalanced output. But the joy didn't last long. Jerk. Despite the increase in force, the time jet suddenly lowered. The engine of the jet. A horrifying sound escaped from the time jet's communication device. Extremely cold energy rose in the central part of the jet, freezing the engine and disrupting air circulation. Since this was a jet that could move through space and time, the cold wouldn't stop it, but that didn't mean it wasn't temporarily affected. Swoosh! As the cold resulted in a decrease in output, the time jet was pulled down again. No way. Anna's eyes filled with despair. It was indescribable how they felt to be taken down by one man who is supposed to be nothing in front of him. Are 2 units of the Special Forces not enough? They aren't. Even if all the units of the Special Forces came, Anna wondered what they could even do against this monster. Rather, it would be a situation where they would only have a slight chance if the unit near the Great Gate was present. The units would have to forget about their lives and move with the determination to kill this monster at any cost. At that moment, she heard the voice of Dead Rose Special Forces Captain, Luis. No. There is no other way. Sorry? I will stop that monster, recover the engine, and move. Tell my family that I love them. Captain. No. Instead. Before she could even finish her words, Luis appeared at the entrance of the jet. When the red uniform, which was revealing her breasts, took the form of a suit, she jumped down. Tack. Captain. Enough. Get in there. Luis, who went down at high speed, reached out to Chen Yuan. As he was concentrating on bringing the jet down, Chen Yuan tried to deal with the woman with an invisible sword. It was then he noticed that a bright light rose from her back and took the form of wings, or roses. What is that? Louise stretched her hand towards Chen Yuan. Fully bloomed roses, their petals flew around in all directions and rushed towards Chen Yuan. Swoosh! Die! Dozens of small shining petals fell. Chen Yuan tried to attack, but he could only block them with an invisible sword. Papapapang! I did it! Hurry! Anna bit her lip at the message she got from the captain. Messing around like that would only irritate the monster and make Louise's sacrifice meaningless. Captain! I'll send a signal. If you can escape, come up right away. With those words, Anna flew to the entrance of the time jet with her suit in flight mode. The wire was pulled up, and Therese, the only survivor, made it inside the jet. After confirming that Anna entered, Louise turned her head. Enough. This is enough. As a captain, it was her duty to save all of her subordinates. All that remained was to stop the man who was pulling down the time jet. Seeing Chen Yuan in person, she clicked her tongue. Plasma petal, her superpower, didn't even touch his hair. Damn it. Does this mean he can do that while pulling the time jet? He really was a monster. A person who would never fall, even when compared to the strongest people of Louise's era. There was no way she could kill the man with her own power. I need to hold on until the engine is restored. She created more petals and directed them towards Chen Yuan. Swoosh! This was the first time since the Great Gate that she was using her petals. She hoped that the man would fall with one strike, but the opaque sword he used flew through the air and blocked the petals. I can at least make sure he doesn't move. She wasn't sure how long it would last, but she knew it could divert him for at least 10 minutes. If not 10 minutes, maybe longer, but that was all. If she gave the man too much time, she could get hit. Gijigik. Ah. Her ears heard the sound of the jet moving little by little. The frozen engine seemed to have thawed. All she had to do was be a little more patient. Thank goodness. Still, he can only use one of those energy swords, so. Louise's pupils trembled. She was unaware of the fact that she had been surrounded by 6 invisible swords. This. Dealing with one by itself was impossible for her. Damn it. Her face turned pale. Chen Yuan, who looked at her, mumbled in a cold voice. I don't like killing women, but I can't let you leave if you are at this level. As soon as he said that, the invisible swords pierced the body of Louise, who jumped into the air. Push! Kayak! Louise screamed at the pain of her suit and flesh being pierced. As her concentration shattered due to the sudden pain, the plasma petals that she had been controlling slowly scattered away, disappearing. Can't maintain. GHT mode static. The voice of the suit's AI was cut off as the main chip was damaged. The particles around the suit disappeared, and her body fell to the ground. Swoosh! Thud! Quack! The helmet opened as she was coughing up a huge amount of blood. She could feel death coming for her. Every corner of her body was turning cold, and her conscious mind was losing its rationality. Escape, ape, quick, KLY. She had lost hope for herself. The only thing she wanted was the time jet to escape until she heard something. Kayak. The scream of Anna. WH what? Bang. 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 Thud. The sounds of gunfire, as if there was a clash within the jet. She couldn't understand what was happening inside. Although her vision was blurred, she could see the monster on the ground and the time jet floating. Who are you? How did you come into the time jet? Kook. A scream. Then the voice could no longer be heard. A small, familiar voice was heard over the communication device from Anna. Start the time jet with these coordinates. Hurry. Ho, is that? Shoo. She tried to hear more, but nothing came out. Dead Rose Special Forces Captain Luis, whose pupils lost focus, stopped breathing. Chen Yuan's eyes narrowed. He too heard the voices which came out from Luis's device. Nano had the ability to eavesdrop. Someone had broken into the time jet. Without Chen Yuan knowing it. There was only one person at Chen Yuan's level who could do that. Blade God. Whoa. At that time, Chen Yuan, who was holding the time jet down, was interrupted by a massive wave of energy. With that, the time jet's altitude rose, and the thawing of the engine was complete. Kiek. The entrance of the time jet closed. At the same time, the particles ejected from the thrusters became stronger and soared into the sky at great speed. Swoosh! Who said you could touch my thing? Chen Yuan flew up. His body, soaring upwards, was equipped with the gadolinium suit. Cha-cha-cha. With particles being released from the suit's hands and feet, he quickly ascended. I need to catch him. The speed at which the time jet flew was amazing. Little by little, it became smaller. At that time, Nano said something. Enabling booster mode. Booster mode? It was then, something like a thruster generated from the back of the Nano suit, and the force increased. Whoosh! Ah! Chen Yuan flew into the sky. A normal suit would have burned down with the force at which he moved, but Chen Yuan's suit was made of gadolinium, which made it possible. The shape of the time jet, which was moving away, became bigger.